All right, so we'll be at the top of 721.
On like quizzes, will we try to solve like this kind of like problem using the 5-point
Yep.
method?
Jasper asked a good question. This will come up on your next quiz, and it'll be on your test. You'll have a modeling problem. You don't have to use this method if you don't need to. But I will grade based on this method. Meaning, if you only make it to step 3, you can't get to step 4, you still show partial understanding, right? If you just try to shoot in the dark and try to get it, and I see no process, and you can't get it, then you won't even be able to show partial. So I highly encourage you, it only plays in your favor to use this process, at least for now. First step, what do? We drew a diagram. Second step, we named and defined our variables. This is the step students love to skip because they think it just takes extra time, but this is probably the most important one. Step 3.
Construct equations to relate the variable.
Good. Construct equations to relate variables. You're creating relationships because what's the whole goal of this? We're going from 5 variables down to 1. And then we can work backwards. Step 4 is to identify, or another way of saying this is to isolate the variable needed to solve. Step 5, write the variables you need in terms of the other variable. So this is a long way of saying kind of what you did in number 4, get that variable alone, get it down to 1, and then the last part of this is 6, and it could be the calculus part next year. Sometimes you don't have to grab your graphing calculator. You might be able to actually solve it, or you'll need to graph it using your calculator and find the minimum. So finding the minimum is an important part of this. So this last step, this is kind of the calculus portion. Now, 1 through 5, generally, big picture, what are we trying to do?
Find variables.
As we move through the process, what's the main goal? Well, we're creating equations to do what? Narrow it down to how many variables? 1. We were trying to narrow down to 1 variable so we can solve. You start out with 4 or 5, there's no way you can do anything with that. The whole purpose in this, or the goal, is to get it down to 1 variable. Okay? Now,